Namaste, and welcome to TRC, the Renaissance Chronicles, where truth is shared to bring life and light to the dark areas of our lives, hailing us all in His name.
This is Renaissance Christos, and welcome to TRC, the Renaissance Chronicles, where we always share life and light in the dark areas to bring us to the good life. That is what today's show is all about. The good life, and GOOD represents greatness, overcoming obstacles daily. That is a new premise of life with the TRE path as we walk it together. And the good thing about it, no religion is required. That's right. That's what I love about the good life. It's entitled to all of us who walk by steps. Now, we do share some biblical principles, so do use that as a foundation, but understand, family, if you have good words, good thoughts, and good deeds, you get to hear well thought, well said, and well done. That's the good life. I am Renaissance Happy, hoping that all is well with you as we go through this time of transition. And as I told you in the last show, this is a deliverance time for me, so I'm really in season and waiting on that. But the great thing about being in that moment, you must still wait and have patience and still continue to do the things that you're supposed to do. That's why with you learning about the good thoughts, that's how you set your affections on things that are above. That way everything else will start to flow from that foundation. See, that's what good thoughts can allow you to do. And then your words, and when your words that you use produce life, like kind of like the character from the Bible, his name was the one who spoke to the valley of the dry bones. Yeah, that's right, my brother. That's right, Ezekiel. I promise you, family, you can have the same opportunities in you. And now today's show is really about the good deeds. Because now that you have the thoughts, have the words, now let's put it all together. So the good deeds equates to the good life. As we gather here at the same place and same time, spiritually, let's get on accord. I ask you to fall in line. I am the philosophical, biblical, rushing, mighty wind, blowing metaphors, similes, creating mental tailspins. Now, what seems to get in our way? Hashtags, lives matter slogans are our own foot every day. Why are we so easily retired, tripping over cordless microphone wires? Yeah, Renaissance. Today, let me be the spark to ignite that fire. I want to say great greetings to you and the good life as we wrap up this little three-part harmony, as we called it. I was thinking that the good life is around us, and I want us to realize that as quickly as possible with all that's going on in our world and all the different things that are trying to sway the mind. And reading this week, I ran across what a premise of thinking in my teachings and my studying that I always knew, and it dealt with how we think. And so many media outlets and so many political outlets and so many nonprofit outlets and so many jobs and so many organizations have one particular motive. If they can control that mind, they can control your actions. But I want to let you know that the good life is around you, and we've been missing it every day. And there's a story from Emmett Fox that goes, these sailors were shipwrecked and their boat that they were in basically capsized and turned over, and they were in a little safety raft and floating along in this ocean current and so on and so forth. Well, when they got in this particular raft, they didn't have water or anything. They just had maybe a bucket or so, but no water. So you can imagine them laying in and this little life raft being tossed to and fro, and these guys are like, oh, we just want some water, simple water. And after a day or so, they're still floating and they're praying for water and hoping anyone can help them. And they notice a ship that's passing by and they wave it down, and the ship kind of steers its way over towards them. Well, the guys in the boat, they're just so thankful that someone stopped, and they're like, please, can you let down a bucket and give us some water? We are thirsty. For days they've been thirsty, looking for water. And the guy who was on the side of the boat told him a simple thing. He said, just let down your bucket. Yeah, that's right. He's telling them from up there, just let down your bucket. What happened was they had been floating so many days and for so many times that they ended up in a fresh body of water, and there was fresh water around them already. The good life is just like that. When you begin to realize what's around you already, you can step forward into your newness, and each day is its own miracle. Each day is its own heaven on earth. You don't deal with like, I gotta go someplace or I gotta be around angels and walk the streets of gold. Family, you can do it right here, right now. That's the goal of the good life. And good deeds. When I thought about good deeds, if you got the thoughts going and the words going, what is the thing that can help us with good deeds? And that's just like an athlete. We got to train our muscles in such a way that the body and the mind can flow. And the good life is not something hard to obtain. It's something that you can walk in daily. That's what it is. Greatness over obstacles daily, right? So listen to this verse about how to train your mind, how to train you. Specific. One thing you got to do, and that's it. You'll train everything else. It says, Luke 6:35, but love your enemies and do good. And lend, expecting nothing in return. And your reward will be great. See that little clause they put on the end? That's like a independent clause, that is. It needed this, but it says, your reward will be great when you do good and lend, expecting nothing in return. And the first thing it said was love your enemies. Wow. So if I'm doing that, Mr. Renaissance, that's training. Yes, that's training yourself to have good deeds. Love your enemies. Good thing about it is you may think that I'm talking about something that's on the outside. That's the good life. The enemy that I'm talking about is in me. Get it? Enemy. So when you learn to love yourself, you're loving your enemy, and you can love everything that's around you. That's the good actions. So now your life will start to flow in such a way, and you start to reap some of the benefit and fruits of it. And that's the beauty of it, because once you start to do that, you'll see that when you remain diligent about these deeds and actions, it'll start to reproduce life. And it doesn't matter the size of the deed. That's where I come in to all my non-believers. It doesn't have to be something great like you go someplace and put in a big sum of money or you help these people. It doesn't have to be something that's seen by everyone. Something that's small can make a huge difference. If you don't believe me, like the ant, Luke 21, 1-4 says it. And whoever was watching or observing kind of knew people, because the verse goes, and he looked up and saw the rich putting their gifts into the treasury. Dealing with money, all right? And he also saw a poor widow putting in 2 mites. You know the story about this, where I'm going. So he said, truly I say to you that this poor widow has put in more than all. For all these, watch this part, out of their abundance have put in their offerings for God, out of their abundance. But she, out of her poverty, put in all the livelihood that she had. Yeah, get that. They gave out of abundance. Can't knock them. She gave out of poverty. She didn't have it, but she had the faith to believe that if I'm diligent with these actions, something will come that will greatly benefit me. And she might not have been necessarily looking for a big payday. That's the thing about it. She put in what she had, not saying, well, oh, if I buy a lottery ticket today and I scratch it off and I won $500, he blessed me. Family, that's fortune, that's luck. That's something that can happen at any given time. I'm not knocking the hustle. Please understand that. But that can't be the only actions that we do to show our levels of faith. It has to be more about what we do in sowing into people. And I promise you, family, if you do this, you will get what we call the good life, because you know it's not about how much you get paid. Because if you're looking for the pay right now, that's the whole trick. That's the fear thing. They got you doing everything looking for some reward here on earth, something that's physical. Whether I can rock the Gucci, or whether I have this car or this lifestyle, or I can live like this, or I have this freedom. See, freedom is the power to choose your own chains. I choose no debt. I choose no entity. I choose no religion. I choose the chains that I want to. And the chains that I choose are peace, freedom, and harmony. Family, I'm going to live the good life every day. Doesn't matter what I have, because what I have is greatness, overcoming obstacles daily. I never have to worry. When you don't have to worry, your value versus your job and what they pay you, what your family tells you you're worth, or what anybody else tells you you're worth, it's what you know that you're worth. And if you're following the good principles, the good thoughts, the good words, and now the good actions, let me tell you what happens. It's coming from Galatians, I think it was 5, and verse 22 through 23. Watch what this says. But what happens when we live God's way? He brings gifts into our lives, much the same way that fruit appears in orchard. Watch the fruit that comes when you start living the good life. Things like affection for others, exuberance about life, serenity. That's that deep, deep peace. You also, listen, we develop a willingness to stick with things, a sense of compassion in the heart, just from doing good deeds. Listen, a conviction that a basic holiness, not the fancy one, a basic holiness permeates things and people. That means your small deeds can just change the action of the whole entire community you're in. And it says we find ourselves involved in loyal commitments. That means people are giving back as you give unto them, not needing to force our way in life. Family, you don't have to force this. It is a product of what you do, your actions. So that's why the 3 things were stay basic as an ant, because it remains diligent always. Train the proper muscles for the upcoming test of strength, and know your value. Don't worry about the hourly rate or what someone else put as a value. It's what you place upon yourself. And I kind of saved my stories for the end, because I'm going to paraphrase this one to give you what I think the good life really was. And it took me going through years of being in places of position where I could influence a lot of people, being on the radio, being a coach, being a school teacher, being a show host. I've been at weddings, many events. And after all of those things, I got the good life, and I figured out what it was that I really could do to really help people out, to really change lives. And it's the last thing that in the book, the Bible, that Jesus was supposedly to have done before he was taken to the cross and taken to his court trial and therefore crucified. And it was the night, the Passover, the Last Supper. Yeah, you remember what happened? Well, let me paraphrase the good life. After Jesus had done all these miracles, think about it, feeding the 5,000, healing the lame, bringing Nicodemus to the light, helping others, just so many different things, walking on water, helping Peter develop his spiritual life, helping John and Bartholomew and all the others develop their life. After all of this that he had done, walking among them, he takes off his robe, wraps it around his waist, takes a basin, water and towels and things of that nature, and he proceeds to wash the feet of his disciples, even the one who was going to betray him, even him. Now, if you were the one who had done all these things, the way our America works and the way our globe works now and the way these people have a thing, you would never find yourself washing the feet of the people who you were mentoring, would you? But this same individual took it upon the holiness that permeates things and people to say, before I pass away and move on, let me do one thing, because you already been washed in the blood. You've already been transformed. Let me wash your feet so that you may go out. It reminds me of the verse like last week when we talk about, let this word be a light unto my path, a lamp unto my feet. And Jesus washes their feet. And Peter even tries to say, nah, you got to back up. You can't do this to me. He's like, and Jesus is like, nah, I must do this. And Peter's like, well, if you're going to wash my feet, you might as well wash my whole body. And Jesus says, this is basically my opportunity to fulfill my last calling, to be obedient to my Father, who told me that in order to be a true leader that changes lives, that enhances the people, he must be willing to do the same thing at a lowly stature as he does at a high point. If he can do it, what are we waiting on? In this pandemic, we know people who need help. I'm around these homeless people whose families have left them for dead. And I hate to use it like that, but I want to be truthfully blunt with you. And nightly upon night, I'm trying to share with them the good life of what they can look forward to. And I tell them these things, and they actually believe in this, but they need to hear it more. They need to hear it from these people who they've been around. More than just an individual they meet on a nightly basis when you might need some help. So the good life is us to give unto others. That's when you love your enemy, you love them better. And then when we share with each other, listen to that word, when we share with each other, Christ shared everything he had down to the point where he said, I'll wash your feet. That way when you go out, all is well. You are ready to go. And the word is a light unto your path, a lamp to your feet. I love the good life. I love it. And as we close out, I want to remind you that this premise, this way of life, is ours. We can obtain this. No religion required. You can start this tomorrow. You can start this now. You don't do it to be seen. You do it just for the other individual to feel renewed, refreshed. Isn't that an opportunity that we all should have? And it's not all about sharing money, so please get beyond that, family. It's about sharing a love that permeates all things. And to close out the show, I like to share stories about people and myself that we've engaged in. And the short version is Mother's Day, as you know, is a big holiday, and people go to the restaurant. So this Mother's Day, I'm feeling healthy. I wanted to do something a little different. So my brother and I decided to put on a little Mother's Day feast, that is, and invite our aunts and my mom over and a cousin or two. And so we set everything up and we cooked a meal. And when I cooked it, I took my time and I was singing and playing music and enjoying myself, and made some pink lemonade, and everything was set. And with the grill was going, the tent was set up, all was well. Church got out, they came on over, and we let them sit underneath the tent and set up some little drinks for them to get started. Then something came to my mind while my brother and I were in the kitchen discussing. And I said, hold up, let's actually serve them today versus them get up and, have to do the family thing and get in the kitchen and walk around with their plates and, all that. So let's simplify this. And my cousin, little younger guy, we got together and we started serving them food. We had like entrees and appetizers, salads, and we served their entire meal. We had jazz music playing. My cousin was frying some fish to the side, and then we gave a little small tribute in the end. But the love that was shared by just being a servant, I'll never forget that Mother's Day as long as I live. And I'll never forget it because of the people. They thought that the punch was spiked. They thought that it was some alcohol in it, and it was nothing at all. It was just the atmosphere and what we can set by having good thoughts, followed by good words, closed by good deeds. My family, I love you. I thank you so much for being with me. We'll continue on with this. We are going to new heights. I am Renaissance Christos. I love you. Please study your word. and rest.
Praises and continual thanks to everyone who shared in this moment of refreshing water, bringing life and light to our souls. This has been TRC, the Renaissance Chronicles, a Hustle Flow Media production.